Good morning, everyone. It's a bit of a later morning today. Yes, and you guys probably will. And you're still in your robe. I'm still in my robe. Already cleaned the kitchen. Already done some other things. Yes, that you can do in a robe. Oh, it's so nice and warm out here. The door's open again to our house, and it's February the 8th. Got my good cup of java. Yes, we can still afford it. I'm not really never going to get into that. Well, I guess. Well, I guess I keep my guesses to myself. Let's just get going. Chickens are out there, and my brother-in-law just dumped to you. He's taking care of the barn. All the horses, the donkey are out. I see Toot, Piggy, Piggy, Piggy. Unbelievable that she's back after. Okay, so we figured out almost 6 months. Uh, Piggy, 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 Toot. Anyway, chickens are in the manure pile. He just dumped the manure, and man, they wait for it. It's like certain things here are so the animals know. Oh, there's a new dump coming, and there's goodies in there for us. And it's just, I love it and how things just work here. I somewhat got accosted in a group where okay, it's weapons oriented, and I showed a video on how we have to take care of some animals here, and it doesn't include a gun. Again, I mentioned that yesterday, and someone comes to, well, what about, you're going to need that gun if one of them comes around and attacks you, and it was about coyotes. We lived here with a lot of coyotes. As I said, though I think there's one coming around again. Something's coming around. I just found a dead rooster, and it was definitely not our dog. So uh, it is what it is when you share the wilderness with the wilderness. When you live in the wilderness and have to share, right, what you got with the wilderness when it comes to animals. In all the 20 years that I've roamed here at the mountains and anyone else, never going out with a gun, I've always had a knife with me. I've never been accosted by a coyote. Okay, do I go out there by myself? Well, why would I? That's a walk with the dogs, right? Never I came across some snakes, and I just walked past them. There was no problem there. Came across some other things, and I just, okay, well, you just do your thing, they do their thing out there, and that is that. And I said, never came across a coyote that was ready to attack me. Someone mentioned, well, that's the state of mind. If people have the right state of mind, even hungry animals won't attack you. And I'm going, okay, well, that person obviously never lived in the wilderness. I would not want to come across a really hungry animal out there that then looks at me and goes, yummy. There are certain times of the year where you just know this is mating season for this or that animal. This is their hunting time at certain times of the day, where then you just stay out of the way, right? Yes? Okay. And all I could say to that one was, well, if you go looking for trouble, if you look for trouble, right, because you got that firepower, trouble most likely will find you. And if you don't do that, then most likely, okay, I would say that there is a balance there, and it just depends on which side of the balance you want to be at. Done. We had one year, I remember, the coyotes, and there must have been at least 10 of them. They surrounded our house. That only happened one time in all the 20 years we've been here now. They did. They surrounded our house. And It was interesting. We heard it was so, they were so close. I was here by myself with my youngest daughter, and I heard them howling, going, "Man, that's way too close. Where are these guys?" And I went out on the porch, and I didn't see them. I did not see them, but I knew that they were closing in on our house for one reason or another. I have no idea what that was all about. And I went out on the other side, and sure enough, you could, they were so close, and they were, I could hear the rush, the walking of them. I could, and they would every so often, suddenly they all would start howling. It was the eeriest thing that you guys, a man, I have ever encountered here when it came to wildlife really getting close to our homestead. And I just went outside and I started yelling. I made sure the dogs were all in the house because I knew as soon as I would just step outside, they would start wanting to go after them. I kept all the dogs in the house. We had 7 at the time. They were all stayed in the house. They were howling in the house. Our dogs were howling in the house. The coyotes were howling outside, circling our homestead. And I went out on the porch right here and I just hollered out there. I made the biggest racket you can imagine. And within about 10-15 minutes, it got really quiet and I could tell they all left. You could tell the energy before that, and then suddenly, they've gone. They're gone. They have all left. Yes, interesting. Well, who knows? Anywho, I think it really is the state of mind of the people when it comes to certain things. If you train and practice to take another human's life that you think, may or may not take your life if you're not prepared. Uh, is this the right way to go? If you prepare to restore something, and I've mentioned that in other videos before, where, well, what would I do if suddenly a group of people with armed would come here and want to do me harm for no apparent reason except they can? Do I have a plan? Yeah. I want to invite them to a good meal first before they kill me. I don't know. Would it work? I don't know. But I feel like maybe I can talk them down. Maybe I can. Okay. That's where I live here. I don't live in a city somewhere. Still have to be prepared for intruders, but how do I prepare myself? And then I have to say, well, whatever time I had and on earth here, my life, anybody else that be here with me, I would say, I guess we lived a good life and now it's time to go. I don't want to take another human life. I'm not going to prep myself and practice to and arm myself to take another person's life. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. I just don't. I don't believe that is God's will. All right, Leviticus. Oh, new book. The ritual of sacrifice. 1. The burnt offering. Yahweh summoned Moses, and speaking to him from the tent of meeting said, "Speak to the Israelites. Say to them, when any of you brings an offering to Yahweh, he can offer an animal either from the herd or from the flock. If his offering is to be a burnt offering from the herd, he must offer an unblemished male. Unblemished, I mean, I guess one that hasn't been neutered. With With goats and sheep, I believe it's the same. I'm not sure about sheep. I've never owned sheep, so I can't really speak for that. That'd be, someone would have to talk about that who knows, right, more about sheep. But with goats, first of all, if you don't neuter them, and you can do that after, I always done mine about 2 or 3 weeks after their birth. I would band their little balls, right? Yes, and dude, you got to make sure that they're both there, right? You can't just and then you band that, and they just dry up and fall off, and there's very little discomfort or pain that goes with it, and and then you can actually raise a male goat for food. Otherwise, you can't do that. You cannot raise a male goat for food if you don't do that, because they start to stink. They secrete something in order to attract the females or something, and boy, oh my gosh, it is so bad. You cannot have an unneutered billy goat in the barn while you're milking your nannies, because the milk will become the stink is so strong with these males that your milk will be affected. Right? Yes? Okay. Well, in any case, so I know that, so unblemished means unneutered, right? All intact. I'm sure that's what it means. So it couldn't be one that was already neutered to start with. The other thing too is that it's interesting that God would expect a male, which they're much more expendable than females. Because really, when it comes down to it, you only need one billy goat. You got more than one, again, just talking from the perspective of goats. It's the same with bulls, with cows, as far as I know. Rarely do you have more than one bull in your herd, because they start to fight. Yes? I don't know how it is with rams. So there you go. Right? So in a way, yeah, okay. If, again, have no idea why God would want these burnt offerings of animals that could be used for food, right? Yes? Again, is it more the willingness to share, make that sacrifice, right? Yeah, though, no doubt, we want to eat that. Yeah, that's a week's, 2 weeks worth of food for a family, maybe even more, right? Yes? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, was it really something that God wanted? Okay, I'm just saying. He will offer it at the entrance to the tent of meeting to make it acceptable to Yahweh. He must lay his hand on the victim's head. Victim. Okay. Victim. Oh, okay. And it will be accepted as effectual for his expiation. He will then slaughter the bull before Yahweh, and okay, there's the bull. And the priest descended from Aaron will offer the blood. Ugh. Wow, that sounds so pagan to me. It's just, okay, why can't I not accept that as I would, how the crystals are being used and the gems, this and that? Because again, why would God need this? A blood sacrifice. Blood sausage, very good, by the way. Man, I grew up with them. That's really good stuff. Okay. They will pour it all around the altar. Man, okay, Daniela, I can't help it, okay? Maybe by the end of the book I'm getting it better or something. But right now, they will pour it all around the altar, which stands at the entrance to the tent of meeting. He will then skin the victim, and quarter it. Can you imagine how often did they have to do that? I wonder how often that was needed to do, because I know that if you don't clean up blood and all that stuff right away, it starts to stink. It becomes a infested place of bacteria and bugs and I don't know what, right? Yes? Okay, well, just saying, this is nasty. How could this be anything that God really would want? I'm not getting it. Sounds nasty to me. The priest descended from Aaron will put a fire on the altar and arrange wood on the fire. The priest descended from Aaron will then arrange the quarters, the head, and the fat on the wood, on the fire, on the altar. Well, so you guys know what happens when fat drips down on a fire? Okay, all right. He will wash the entrails and shins in water. What? Now poop suddenly matters? And the priest will burn it all on the altar as a burnt offering, food burnt as a smell pleasing to Yahweh. You know, I like the smell of vegetables much better than the smell of meat. It doesn't mean I don't like meat or anything, but really, unless you season meat, the smell of meat, I don't think is all that attractive. I don't know. Father, really? He's like, don't look at me. They just wrote this down any which way they wanted to. Oh! Okay. All right. I'm not making fun of this. It's just, it's gross. Of his offering is to be, if his offering is to be of an animal from the flock, of a lamb or a goat to be offered as a burnt offering, he must offer an unblemished male. There we go. He will slaughter it on the north side of the altar before Yahweh, and the priest descended from Aaron will pour the blood all around the altar. Ah, hell, that must have been a stinky place. He will then quarter it, and the priest will arrange the quarters, the head and the fat on the wood, on the fire, on the altar. He will wash the entrails and shins in water, and the priest will burn it all on the altar as a burnt offering, food burnt as a smell pleasing to Yahweh. If his offering to Yahweh is to be a burnt offering of a bird, he must offer a turtle dove or a young pigeon. The priest will offer it at the altar and wring off its head. Which he will burn on the altar. Its blood must then be squeezed out on the side of the altar. He will then remove the crop and the feathers and throw them on the eastern side of the altar, where the fatty ashes are put. He will then split it in half with a wing on each side, but without separating the two parts. The priest will then burn it on the altar on the wood which is on the fire as a burnt offering, food burnt as a smell pleasing to Yahweh. That's one in Leviticus. Gross, just gross, and I don't get it. And having raised animals for food myself and what it takes to prep them and we did all the work ourselves here. To actually get the meat and this and that, it's here it's always been a very clean affair. Okay, yes, draining the blood is important. Not sure why it was so important there, because it doesn't sound like it was used for food. Maybe it is. Maybe it was just, again, we'll keep on reading and see if we find out more about it. If it was just a meal that was prepared for everyone and then everybody rejoiced in it, and God was in this special way made a part of it. But again, on how things were distributed, the blood, all that jazz, it's like, it just sounds gross. It sounds gross. Right? Yes, to me it does. Right? Because again, I've skinned goats. Right? After I bled them, I skinned them, and then carefully took apart the whole goat to its meat components. Right? Yes, nothing ever got wasted here. There's just no. And because we raised them organically, I even used the liver, the kidneys, the heart. No, not the brains. And it was always a very, very clean affair. And it took less than 3 hours to do the whole thing, and everything was cleaned up. There wasn't any blood left on the floor. It was always cleaned up and scrubbed. Uh, the whatever there was that wasn't edible, or we didn't. I wouldn't reuse anymore, as people probably did in the older times. We would take in a wheelbarrow way out and dump it, and whatever animals got to it. So there, in a way, it was never thrown in the garbage or anything like that. The skins, we tried to had. It's one thing I never really got into, to save the skins. And it's a big process, and it has to be proper set up and all that. With all the work I already had, just was never a thing that I got into. And so that often just went out with the rest of it. And it disintegrates awfully fast. You'll be amazed on how quickly that disintegrates all. Anyway, never had a problem that we attracted any rats or other vermins that would be attracted by something like that. Also, because we took it far enough out. And yeah, so I can't. This is a really odd first uh, chapter in Leviticus to me, and it was that really what God required? And again, meat smells fine if you season it properly, but just so, what was the pleasing smell they are talking about? Gotta guarantee you that wherever they poured all that blood and whatever else, that stank. I'm just saying. I live in the real world here too, okay? So I'm just trying to envision what went on there, and it's just like, how's that pleasing to God? I don't know. I wasn't there. Again, I wasn't there. Not sure. Was this written down properly, or is this just. Ew, sounds just so barbaric. Okay? Yes? All right. Well, anyway. Other people may see this differently. I don't mind someone telling me, but maybe the Israelites at this time here still in Israel, they have a better look into it on how that actually was done, and how, explain to me how in the desert with all them bugs and stuff that they were not attracted to, and how often did they move on? How long would they stay in one place? How many of these offerings were made at one time, or and did they clean it up afterwards, or was it just left there? As I said, it had to look worse than a slaughterhouse or something. Okay, I'm just saying, and very unsanitary. Okay, I'm just saying. That was pleasing to God. Okay, all right. Just saying, right? Don't know. I don't know. I do know that the animals that we raised here for food, they lived an amazing life until it was time to give back. We fed them, took good care of them, and then when it was time, they fed us. Right? Yes? Yeah. And it was pleasing to our palate. And the smell too. I seasoned them really good. So there is a give and take there. Right? I'm not quite understanding the give and take between these burnt offerings to God and the people. Yes? And the victim. It's called a victim. Well, anyway. That's what I wanted to share this morning. God's love and blessings always, and may He protect you, and I will talk to you another time.